Hi, Misha here, and in this video we're going to talk about the voyages of the USS Alka-Selsior NCC 1401 and its struggles with its ongoing adversary, generic Tums. I actually wish I had some real Alka-Selsior in packs around here. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Sorry, I don't know which side's the front, so I'm just giving you both, because blind, you know? Yeah, the third Excelsior study model, or Excelsior prototype, came in from Eaglemoss. These are all Nilo Rodis concepts. He was the art director on Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. He also worked on many of the other Star Trek films, as well as the Star Wars trilogy. And in the past, I have covered the first prototype here, first study model. This was released, issue 152. Then we got this other one here. Both of these are 4 nacelles. And then finally, we got our first 2 nacelle prototype. I think this is issue 164. These are all towards the end of the collection. And of course, I just brought out the regular Excelsior Studio model here for comparison. Didn't bring the refit out this time because I did last time. And some people might say with the fact that they're doing these prototypes is kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, but as I've said in multiple videos, I think it's exactly the opposite. This is what's cool about the Eaglemoss collection. They're inexpensive enough and small enough you can get all these weird ships, because if they did $100 large-scale models, of course they would never do 1 prototype, much less 3. These are die-cast, though, and all 3 of them are quite heavy, especially number 2 here. Pretty interesting. And these are technically canon. They were seen in background shots, certainly in Season 5 of Unification at the Qualler Depot, where retired ships were at. But also, since those shots are pretty much lifted from the Best of Both Worlds graveyard scene, even if they were cropped or not shown in the episode, they were filmed in that scene along with several kit bashes. So yeah, they're background, but they are kind of in a few episodes, plus they might be in a few other areas besides. So the idea, when they were getting ready for Star Trek 3, was to make a ship that looked more powerful, larger, faster, stronger than the, at that time, aging Enterprise, the Constitution class. And this was often called a super starship, or a heavy cruiser. And so initially they were looking at doing a 4 nacelle setup. You gotta remember, back in 1983, 1984, this would have only been the 3rd Federation ship that we had seen. We had the Constitution class, of course, and we had the Reliant, at that time the Vengeance class, or Avenger class, but later Retro actively changed to Miranda, which I think is much more fitting than Avenger. So yeah, the sky was the limit. And one neat thing about Star Trek 3, they were going to do a lot of new models. Not only was the Federation going to get the new advanced cruiser in the Excelsior, they were also going to get the science ship, the scout ship, Grissom, which is a cool design. I think we all think so. If not. And more importantly, we got a what was going to be originally a Romulan, but later changed to Klingon, bird of prey, which, I mean, is just iconic Star Trek. Next to the Constitution and maybe the Galaxy classes, the most iconic and used. So that started in this film. We also got Space Dock, which is terribly iconic. Not a starship as such, but it is in space. And we even got the Merchant Man, which, while only in the film briefly, has reappeared multiple times, either as it was or in altered form, and kind of become a bit of a classic is in its own right. So 3 really introduced kind of the whole model world, and I think in general expanded the world of Star Trek. We see a bar, we see Starbase. Before that, we pretty much saw the Enterprise. So yeah, they wanted a ship that looked more advanced, and so they went with the 2 to the 4 nacelle designs, and this was more or less one of the first pitches that Rodis gave. It's a very flat design. This whole center part is metal, with, of course, the nacelles being the plastic. As you see, it stays on a stand very well. Very flat, though. And that was rejected. Next up, we had another 4 nacelle design. Definitely more flushed out. This is physically a larger model with more detailing. Still 4 nacelles, though. This is also very heavy. The whole center part is metal. Still very flat, but a little bit more detailing and whatnot. Kind of a bit of a progression. A few more doodads on it to make it less streamlined, more maybe intimidating or futuristic looking. So one was kind of a minimalist design, the other one's a little more advanced. But they did not just do 4 nacelles. They also did some 2 nacelle designs. And this was the first of those, the one we just had come in today. Well, I just had come in. You might have too, I don't know. It's kind of got an interesting shape to the saucer, very arrowhead. What I found interesting about that, it's kind of reminiscent of what would come much later, like with Voyager era. Still quite flat, but not quite as much so. The placement of the star drive kind of integrated in, and the way that the deflector is done on this is, again, kind of futuristic, even, you know. And we have the bridge. It actually really does remind me of a Dominion War era type ship in a lot of ways. Even the nacelles are more streamlined. And what they would do, they had a lot of time to develop this, and this is one they really wanted to, you know, settle on and make something good. Maybe even to hope replace the Enterprise later on as a hero ship or something. They got the bird of prey figured out pretty quick. The merchantman was a secondary concern, so they just did something. But this they really did. So they would start off just making literal sketches, just, you know, pen and paper sketches, black and white. If they got past that phase, they would do more of a painting or a color drawing. And if they got past that phase, they would get to physical models. But these are study models, meaning they were pretty much made of like vacuum formed plastic or wood or putty or foam, just cheap things, and were about 1 foot to 2 foot long. 1 foot to 2 foot long, depending on the study model. You know, some of them as small as 7 inches, just, you know, whatever size, with very crude details kind of formed from basic paints, just to give an idea of the deflector would go here, the nacelles would be this shape, bridge dome would be this style. just to give a thing physical that they could, do some camera tests with. They could hold it while talking in board meetings, kind of let their imagination run. Something I can very much understand, because that's why I have these Eaglemoss models. Given my condition, I don't know what they look like until I hold it. And sometimes I just like holding it and seeing what they had. So these 3 would make it to that stage, plus 2 others. Now, I don't think we'll get the last 2 in the total 5 study models, because number 4 is an interim step. It's very similar to this and the final Excelsior. Different, but yeah, it's close enough to the Excelsior that the profile is the same. And number 5 was actually the one picked to be the Excelsior. So number 5 was basically just a roughly made Excelsior. And what Eaglemoss has been doing, they've been getting assistance from people over at Star Trek, and they'll take a concept like this and they'll go ahead and flush it out to give it some detail and make it look like a real ship. So if they took number 5 and did that, it would basically be this. So we got the 3 ones that are most distinctive. So what do I think? Well, I'm glad to have all of them. I'm actually glad they kind of came out close together too, so there wasn't a huge wait. My least favorite, though, is this one. It's the most simplistic. It's very flat. It's actually probably the smallest of them. It's very long, but very thin. Also, the nacelles are a little wonky on mine and quite everyone else's. It seems like actually being in the stand, the way it clips in, it forces them in alignment pretty well. And you can always take a heat gun, but it seems like there's a bit of a nacelle alignment issue. I think it's just based on the size and how weird they kind of are. So I'm glad to have it. But frankly, it looks like a pizza cutter or a lollipop. But it was the first, so, hey. It's also, I think, the lightest of these. Number 2. Definitely a more fleshed out design. Very heavy. Still 4 nacelles. Bit more of a big style, less tapery. Looks stronger. I would have to say, just in the sense that it's still different but same, this is probably my favorite, plus the model is just really well done. Feels very substantial. But I'm not disappointed with today's 3rd prototype at all. It's certainly closer to the final product than the others, although the shapes are different, the kind of arrowhead saucer. The nacelles are pretty standard nacelles. And back here, I do like, trying to figure out how to pick this up, I do like how the engineering hull is kind of integrated into the main body. I think that I really like the look of this. It would almost be my favorite, except I do like the 4 nacelle for just being different, Mine came in with the right nacelle not attached. To be fair, the box had been through something, but I was going to glue it back on. But when I physically just put it on, I realized that it didn't really break. I just don't think they used enough glue, because the tab snapped right, or kind of slid with some friction right on to the pylon, to the strut, and it's holding on without glue. So I think, and you see that a lot, not just with Eaglemoss, but even Corgi and Hobby Master models. Sometimes they just don't put enough glue on them. So if it gets loose, I'll put just a tiny dot of glue. But since the tab and everything is fully intact, I don't think it was broken so much as it just came loose during shipping. It's been pretty cold outside and also damp, so maybe the glue just kind of got rattled. And again, the outer box it came in was a little worse for wear. I mean, not too bad, but so a minor thing I had to fix on that, but that's all right. I'm a model person, so it's fine. I even kind of get a little bit of a sense of achievement if I'm able to fix something as good as new. Kind of ironically, of the 4 on the table here, the actual Excelsior model, which we've had a long time in the collection, it came out in the first few months, is the lightest and probably the least impressive, but I think that's also just me. Excelsiors are everywhere. Everyone's done models of them, large, small, die-cast, plastic, micro machines, Playmates toys. So I have it because it's in the collection, and hey, you got to represent Hikaru Sulu, right? But these are cool because no one else has done them. The first 2, the 4 nacelles, we never get a name or a registry, but at the beginning I said this was the USS Alka-Selsior NCC 1404. That's true. That was written on the studio model. I don't know if it's on this one. I think it should be, but if it's not, of course it was an inside joke, never meant to be seen on screen. It is a play on the name Excelsior, Alka-Selsior. Maybe someone was having some heartburn that night. I think it's kind of funny. But also it's worth pointing out that one of the earliest people to work on Star Trek models, Richard Dayton, he actually was working for the Alka-Selsior company for doing ads, commercials, and they would have models of kind of their plop plop fizz fizz going on in a big glass and everything. He designed those commercials, those models for them. And then in 1964, he was actually hired to work on the at that time unheard of and at that time failed series Star Trek to design an unknown ship called the USS Enterprise. So Dayton actually worked on real Alka-Selsior models and then also the Constitution Enterprise model that would be used throughout the original series. Of course, in updated form in some cases, from the cage to Where No Man's Gone Before to the standard production. But yeah, so there's a little bit of a inside tribute there, minor little boop. So I'm keeping the name USS Alka-Selsior because it's funny. Hey, you never know. In the 23rd century, Alka-Selsiors might be a serious thing. Maybe there's... I think what happened is one night Admiral Archer was up eating cheese with Porthos Jr., and I had just wicked heartburn, and would have died except for the use of Alka-Selsior. And so, ever since then, it was attributed with, saving the life of a great admiral and president of the Federation. And so, Alka-Selsior is a revered name ever since. Except, Andorians don't get it, but Vulcans love it because, anything with more than 2 grains of black pepper upsets a Vulcan's stomach. They think chamomile tea is zesty. If you've ever had it, it's quite good, but it's very mild. Don't give them Earl Grey. For the love of God, a Vulcan on Earl Grey. Yep. Hey, someone put that in Memory Alpha. Come on, that should be canon. I think that's great. I'm just having fun, guys. Just that I would share models that just came in today. So there you go. Like I said, I did cover these in a few other videos, so yeah, I'm going to say number 2 is still my favorite, but number 3, I think they did an excellent job with. And number 1, I like the idea of, and I don't think Eaglemoss did a necessarily bad job on the model, wonky nacelles aside. I just think it was a pretty primitive design. And if you look at it, number 2 kind of really reminds me of the Constellation class, the USS Stargazer. What do you think? The way it's kind of thicker and the way the nacelles are? I don't know, just kind of seems to do it. Alrighty, folks, I appreciate it. Please feel free to comment. If you could, like, share, and subscribe. And if you have time, hey, please check out some of my other videos, maybe. This is Misha, and I'll catch you very soon next time.